She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today.
Welcome everyone. Today we are talking about people pleasing. We're talking about how we let that go. Yes.
Hopefully.
Trying to let it
And
go.
then Drusilla's going to tell us about how she never even picked it up. So, Drusilla, why don't you start?
Well, that's going to be kind of hard because I don't know what that looks like. I mean, like, I get it, but I don't have that part of me that likes to please people.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, I'm subservient in a lot of ways, but it's not because I like to be of service, but it's not people pleasing. Like, I don't do it to the degree that I want people to look at me in a certain way. I don't think. I actually just enjoy making people feel good when it comes to taking care of them. Yeah. In that way. But yeah, I think I'll probably be able to relate to it a little more when I understand what you all mean when you say you people please.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, let me hear a little more about that.
All right.
I have a
Who got-
definition.
Go ahead.
Okay, the term people pleaser refers to a person who has a strong urge to please others, even at their own expense. They may feel that their own wants and needs do not matter or alter their personality around others. Yeah.
So I have an example of the latter that you just said. When I was growing up, we moved around a lot. When I was like elementary school, before like junior high, we moved all the time. So I got into the habit of adapting quickly to my new environment. So I would have friends like immediately. And so that was how I got into people pleasing, and how I'm learning now how to undo that as I discover and allow who I am to shine through, because I went through a lot of years of not knowing that, or not, I mean, it wasn't even something I was consciously doing. I just got into the practice, in the habit of adapting so I would be safe, which is completely understandable, right? So I would adapt to my environment. And then that is kind of the part of people pleasing that I took on. It was to fit in. I never took on the part of people pleasing to my detriment. Like, I would change to like that part of it. Read the first part of it again, Melissa.
It's to essentially please others at your own expense.
Yeah. I didn't go down that road as much. Like, I didn't view it as that. Now that I'm, 50s plus and looking at it through an adult lens, right? I recognized that it wasn't necessarily it was at my detriment, because I wasn't exploring and allowing myself to become exactly what I wanted to be in all situations. But I feel like I've grown and allowed, but it was the latter. It was just because I needed to feel safe, and these were a completely new environment, and I needed to fit in. Yeah.
so glad you shared that, Amanda, because it brought me back to a time when I was probably like 3, 4, or 5 years old, very young. And I have not thought about this probably since it occurred all those many years ago until you started sharing about your childhood. But I remember someone in kindergarten or preschool or daycare or whatever it was asking me, I'm just going to say Care Bears, asking me if I liked the Care Bears. And I don't remember if that's what it was, but it was something like that. And I loved the Care Bears, but I could tell in her tone, it was like, you like the Care Bears? Like I could tell that it was not cool to like the
Mhm.
Care Bears. And even at that young of an age, I went into people pleasing and I said, no, like I don't know. I said what I perceived I needed to say to be accepted by this person. So this is an aha that I'm having even just like right now, that like it started at such a young age for me. And I don't know, I don't know if is it born into our personalities or I'm just having this awareness right now. I just figured it was a conditioned response that I'd learned throughout the course of my life, but it started very young for me.
So do you think that, like, to break it down into the two definitions that Melissa read, do you think you fall into one category more than the other?
Um, no, not necessarily. I mean, I can kind of see how both of them play out, I think. Yeah, but when starting on this spiritual path and starting to really understand more about what people pleasing really is, that it's a subtle form of manipulation and it's really not loving either to yourself or to the other person because you're presenting a false sense of who you are. Um, when I understood that and made the commitment to start undoing it and working towards having a healing around it, it's funny the ways that I started noticing it everywhere and in such funny. I'll share a funny story. John Mark and I were at a bar back in Florida. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and we got caught up in a conversation with an acquaintance, someone with whom we were friendly but not close friends. And it was one of those conversations that you just don't want to be in. And like it was a one-sided conversation. It didn't interest me. We had just gotten there. We were ready to go mingle and say hello to our friends. And I just stayed there in the conversation, and John Mark just quietly walked away without a word. No, no, excuse me. Gotta run, whatever. Like just bowed out without a word. And I was sitting there pissed off that I got stuck here in the conversation and judging him like he's so rude and also envious of him. Like, damn it, he got out of this conversation and here I am stuck in it. And so I realized like that even so many of our social norms, how we classify things as polite versus rude, really boil down to people pleasing. It's a should, it's a like, yeah, I'm engaging in conversations that I really don't want to be. And I'm sure there's there's no white and black. There's some gray area there. And it's, love is always the appropriate response. But I just thought that was a funny example.
That is a funny example.
Yes, I love it. It just made me think about something. See there, Morgan? Thank you. I just had a similar situation today. So, to your point, how do we discern when we're people pleasing versus we're being polite and loving.
Mhm.
Because my situation was that I had to drop something off to a neighbor. The neighbor is a little chattier than I like to be. And I knew it. I cut the car off, even though I said to myself, you probably want to leave the car running. I said, no, just gonna, I cut the car off. And then I got to the door and I handed her package and she said, well, on it. I said, okay, but I have groceries in the car. And that was the truth.
Mhm.
And then she said, it's not going to be that long. And she starts chatting. Oh my goodness. 5 minutes went by. And I did get to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, here you are, Drusilla. How do you get out of this one? You're always getting yourself into this kind of situation. She's such a nice lady. Like, it's not going to hurt you to listen to her. She probably is lonely and blah, blah, blah. So probably stayed in her doorway for 15 minutes for what should have been probably, could have been 2 minutes. How you doing? Oh, good. So I do that a lot, probably. But I don't know if I am doing it to my detriment on some level. But I don't know really what that is all about. Is it really that I'm doing it because I don't want them to be mad at me or not like me, or what's going on there? I think I did mention on one other episode that I do have a difficult time letting go of relationships or wanting people to kind of putting distance between me and other people in relationships when sometimes there probably needs to be. So I can see there might be a little bit of that in there. I'd be glad to hear your thoughts. Penny, you look like you have something to say.
Well, this is a pretty interesting conversation, actually. As a parent, I think a little bit more people pleasing for me has come into play because I have put my needs and wants aside for the better of the family so that, the family unit can keep moving forward. And sometimes I've done it happily, and sometimes I've done it with a lot of resentment. And so I know that I have suffered from people pleasing. I think it's partially, I'm really trying to take ownership for my life, right? So I'm really looking at the words that I'm using. And so, but I was affected by the way I was brought up, by some of the behaviors that were around me, and I'm still healing all that. And so I know that based on the behavior of some of the adults in my life as I was growing up, I would definitely change and do whatever I knew would make them happy so that the boat wasn't rocked, because I wasn't quite sure what would happen if the boat got rocked. And so kind of maybe what you were saying, Amanda, where you wanted to feel safe in these new environments, that might have been what I had to do all the time, to feel safe in my environment is just, okay, yep, I'll do that. No problem, whatever you want, And so, but I don't want to use that as a crutch either. I think it's just part of my growth opportunities and to keep interrupting because I'm not there anymore. I mean, I'm not there anymore. I've got my own family. I've created my own family, and I can stay conscious enough to know that I don't have to worry about that any longer, but I can still slip into those patterns. I mean, it's a process for me. So yeah, I've said that I'm a people pleaser in the past, and I acknowledge that I've done it, and I have done it to the detriment of my own wants and needs. And I get to choose again every single day. And so, yeah, I can choose if I want to go spend 15 minutes with the neighbor when she wants to have some connection. I can choose that. And it might be people pleasing at times too. Yeah. So yeah, that's what's coming up for me is yeah, just to interrupt those old tired patterns. That's what I'm working on. How about you, Melissa? What's going on for you?
Well, I was thinking of that song, Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. I was while you were on, I was looking up the lyrics, looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching their eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of. So I think that's the deal when you're like, really, you're looking for something from someone else.
Mhm.
And then I feel like I had two buckets of people pleasing. One is that I grew up in an alcoholic narcissistic home, and it was not only like modeled to me, because my mom grew up with her family that was really off kilter, and it just was a way to keep safe, keep people happy, keep people off your back. And then the second bucket for me is just feeling so unworthy that I was just looking like I would do anything for someone to love me. And so I could change clothes, change personalities, change whatever it was, if someone loved me. So I had pretty much operated with those two things throughout my whole life. I don't really do that much anymore. I don't look a lot outside of myself, but I was just, my son, who doesn't live with us anymore, went to college. A couple weeks ago, he crawled into bed with me in the middle of the night. He's supposed to be in Florida. And I look over and it's my kid, and he surprised us, and it was really great. But every day, you want breakfast? You want lunch? You want dinner? Do you need anything? Do you need some shoes? Can I buy you something? I mean, it was just like this. I was really happy to do it, and it made me happy. But I really don't do that much anymore. Like, really trying to do things for people. That's not just love, that's stuff, anyways. It gave me a nice little reflection on how I mothered when he was here living with us. So and there is a little, like, even last week and the week before, it was a little like doing it for some love in return. So and I think it was just habit. But yeah, I'm really glad. I feel like my life was sucked out of me, or I allowed my life to be sucked out of me when I was a people pleaser and really focused on pleasing other people, because I did put my needs aside. And it was painful. So yeah, that's what I have.
Coming up for me now is like the whole like people pleasing, like when it's healthy, when it's unhealthy, there's like an element of giving to get.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
And I like how Penny said also, it's if you're doing it from a place of joy and love versus resentment, because I was a little ambiguous too about like, this seems like a gray area. Is it people pleasing or is it just being kind and loving? And I think that is the distinguishing factor. Like, are you being fully present and loving and making the conscious choice? Like, okay, I'm not dying to have a 15-minute conversation with this person, but I'm going to choose to be fully present right here with love, or I'm going to be grimacing the whole time and like
Yeah. Like I know my husband loves a clean kitchen when he wakes up in the morning, right? And so he would be like, oh my God, nobody put the dishes away or whatever. And so I would like when I first recognized it, I would go, oh my God, Larry wants the kitchen cleaned up. I better get to work and get it done, before so he doesn't have any problems. But then I shifted it and I realized that I really like a kitchen cleaned up in the morning. I'm not doing this to please Larry, though it's pleasing him when he gets up to a cleaned up kitchen too. But I'm doing it for me because it fills me up and it brings me joy when I um, wake up in the morning. So it's like some of it might have started out as people pleasing, but then I've shifted it into something that really for me too, I don't always know what my needs are. And so I've had to do a lot of work. I've been taking Tom Bond's compassion course, the compassion course. He teaches nonviolent communication. And the whole first part of the whole course is just to figure out what your own needs are. And then you try to figure out what other people's needs are, because everybody, the way they operate, they're either trying to get a need met or they're trying to meet a need of somebody else's. And so it's quite fascinating if I can walk into conversations that way, that, okay, this is a need I need to get met, or maybe it's he's trying to get met. And am I willing to meet that need or not? Welcome back, Amanda.
Yeah, do you have anything else to add, Amanda, while your internet is working?
No, I missed a little bit of the conversation. Other than that vibration that I mentioned of giving to get, and how that helps me now navigate the whole people pleasing part of me. And I've as I really value who I am and discover who I am and know what that is and comfortable with it, that the need to people please, the need to fit in is different. It has a whole different thing now.
Yeah, I agree
Well,
with that.
Penny gave us an example of a practical way of how she started shifting people pleasing by shifting the way you were thinking about doing the kitchen, cleaning the kitchen. Does anybody else have any examples of practical ways that they are undoing that habit or that pattern?
I think just the word no helps.
Yeah. Oh, that's Amanda's word too.
I love the word N-O, baby. N-O.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, getting in the habit of I had to prep myself for it and kind of pump myself up to do it, but just practicing telling people the truth instead of making up a little white lie. Like if I didn't want to go have dinner with them because I was tired, instead of making up a white lie that I wasn't feeling well, just saying, I'm really looking forward to snuggling with my pets on the couch and watching TV tonight. So I'm going to pass, but thank you. and and it sounds so simple, but starting in small ways like that made it easier to then in a work conversation be able to vocalize my opinion more safely, feel safer saying no, that's really not my favorite thing, when before maybe I would have just agreed with everything. You know what I mean? Starting in simple ways so that I can be more authentic in ways that seem more difficult. Yeah, I don't know.
I followed that. I did follow that. Yeah.
Well, and making sure your needs are met first and foremost, I think, is what I'm hearing too.
Yeah. I even evaluated when I started looking at how people pleasing was showing up in my life. I even evaluated friendships and was am I hanging out with this person because I feel like I should? And I dropped a few friendships from my life. Didn't stop loving them, just didn't keep spending time with them if I didn't want to. So that was powerful.
I think that's interesting, the shoulds,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
convincing yourself to do things because you should.
Yeah,
And not paying attention to, like Penny said, your own needs.
mhm. And being comfortable with people thinking I'm rude.
Do you think that's a Southern thing? I mean, do you think like
Hmm.
being, I mean, I know I have it too, but I also have friends who are Southern and they're way more polite than I am, or conscientious towards making sure other people are okay in the group.
Well, politeness, definitely. I learned politeness. Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe it's just their style of communication. Maybe
Yeah.
they're just more um I want to say like compassionate towards others. or-
Considerate.
Yeah,
I
Considerate.
don't
considerate,
think
that's
that's
the
it.
word.
I think it's just polite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, definitely different.
Yeah. I'm still not gonna like you, but I'm gonna be polite because
Right.
that's what
Well,
Yeah.
our own
that's
people do,
different.
right?
Yeah.
Considerate
Yeah.
of others.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Funny.
Well, yeah, we don't have to like everybody, right?
Right.
I
But we
think
can
that's one
be-
of the best realizations that I've had just recently because I went out and I was in a group of people and I didn't really feel I felt comfortable with who I was, but like after this event was over, socializing, like I felt a little awkward and then uncomfortable. And then like I was like on the verge of, do I force myself to go socialize with these people? And then a light bulb went off and it was like, I don't have to go socialize with these people. It is totally fine for me to enjoy this event and then go home, like not forcing myself to do something that was making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good job,
Yeah.
Amanda.
Yeah, that was
Ah,
yeah.
Mhm.
But you know what that made me think of? What I haven't thought about us, my years in corporate America.
Mm,
Oh my gosh, so many days and after work events and things that I would love to not have attended that I did. Oh my goodness. When you talk about sucking the life out of you, that sucked the life out of me. Like being in corporate America for 25 years and doing the whole song and dance every day and week after week. I would say, yeah, that part of me in which I guess I totally don't associate with who I am anymore. That person, yeah, totally had to be a people pleaser. I mean, that's what HR is, right? I worked in human resources for 20 years and yeah, that's what you do as a part of your career. And I was really good at that. So, I mean, yeah.
And I
Well,
think it's inherent in the system,
mhm.
right? Of climbing up the totem pole.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, I love that it's not you anymore.
mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's not. As a
And
matter of fact, I do remember now when I first left corporate America and I felt this level of freedom to
yeah,
just be, not to have to go and be what everybody else wanted me to be day in and day out. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was such a load off,
huge.
It was long before, being a part of this ministry. Um, but I could see that it definitely would have pointed me in this direction of, okay, now what is it like for you just really to be in the world as the person that you want to be, and
Mhm.
showing up the way that you want to show up and not the way that other people are expecting you to show up every day. So, yeah, I didn't think about that part as being people pleasing. But yeah, totally.
Totally resonate with that when I quit my job and moved to Costa Rica. Just like felt everything that you were just sharing. Like, I get to be me. I don't have to buy clothes that aren't me to wear to a job that, yeah, my job was awesome, but it was weighing too much on my identity.
Yeah.
So interesting that you brought up dress, Morgan, because like, again, from the perspective, from a removed perspective, I remember having lots of outfits in my closet that were costumes, right? And I love to dress and look nice, but I remember, like, again, hindsight being what it is, like things were a persona that I would put on, as opposed to, is this really who I am? I'm putting on this outfit to be this person. I
Yeah,
remember
living
doing
in
that.
your essence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that I think it's so interesting, and all of this going back to Drusilla, with like, is your career really making you who are, you have to put on that costume or that identity to be in that career? Is it really not who you are authentically? Because I think it's probably pretty prevalent for people.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, I think it depends. Like, is there a place where I could go to work as an HR professional and still be as successful as I was without putting on the pretentiousness of people pleasing? And, there's probably a place,
Yeah.
you know, but have I ever experienced it? No.
There's probably like the millennial kind of, startups,
Hmm.
San Francisco startups, and they have, all the fun stuff, and you can wear what you want to wear and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But even then, I think you have to have a certain identity to fit
Yeah.
into even that.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree. I still think there's probably a certain part of being in a certain community that you would have to then simulate to in
Mhm,
some form or fashion to be successful in that community, whatever it is. So,
mhm,
um, and that would be no different, I guess, than if I were to start a film production company and I set certain parameters and created certain culture around my own beliefs.
Correct. Yeah.
Then some people might thrive and feel whole and complete coming to that environment. And some people might feel like they had to make adjustments that were not totally who they are and who they wanted to be,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
Yep. I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, Drusilla. Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. And through looking, in retrospect, looking at myself and like some of the costumes and some of the things I did, like I'm not even labeling them as bad or wrong, because I believe that I was in the experience to learn and to grow. And I think it has informed who I am now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm giving me the gift of not labeling that as bad, as wrong. I am celebrating the fact that I don't do that anymore, or it has shifted a lot. Yeah. Mhm.
I always think, yeah, you have to have been there to get here. So,
Mhm.
our journeys are all perfect no matter what. But I just find it interesting. Even I find myself swimming in the bowl and not realizing I'm swimming in the bowl,
Mhm.
until something like Drusilla, what you said about like um the culture of corporations and the work culture. And you don't even realize you're playing the game when you're in the
Hmm.
game.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the local hipster coffee shop, which
Yeah.
is so like anti-corporate, has
Right.
a culture that the people fit into, you know?
Mhm.
with their tattoos and piercings and crazy hair, you know? Yeah.
Is that people pleasing, or is that just fitting in? Or, I mean, there is like an evolutionary theory that we fit in our tribes to keep the danger out and to keep certain things in. But I think it's a fine line, the people pleasing and the being in the in crowd
Mhm.
of your choice.
I would agree.
So any final thoughts? I mean, it seems like a natural pausing thing. Is there any final thoughts on healing people pleasing and like where you are now?
I think it's just it's okay wherever you are now. And it's okay where you've been. It's okay where you are now. And I think what Penny was talking about, getting your own needs met, is very important. And I feel like I stopped people pleasing on a big level when I started loving myself more.
Mhm.
So I had less love to have to go find outside of myself because I was giving it to myself.
Ooh, I like that.
Well said, Melissa.
I
Well
like it.
said.
Yeah, and it's like stop giving your power. I stopped giving my power away too.
Yeah.
So I started keeping my own power and versus, and that people pleasing, I think, is when I was giving it away.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's a deep conversation, ladies.
It is. And my mind is singing, I've got the power. I just dated myself a little bit, but
That's
You know
so
that song,
funny.
Morgan?
I
Morgan,
do know that song,
Oh, you-
absolutely. Yeah. I just
Yeah.
heard it in my head, not Amanda
yes, of
singing
course
it,
you
but the
did.
real one.
My rendition was so spot on.
Yeah.
It was.
Immediately. So
That's
Morgan,
so
do you
funny.
have any announcements you wanna sign us off here?
Sure. I'll just say find us on Instagram at 5lemons laughing, and find us on Facebook, and find us on YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast, you've already found us. And check out our website, 5lemonslaughing.com. 5 is spelled out. And please join the conversation. Post a comment on social media or send us an email, info@5lemonslaughing.com. We would love to hear from you. We would love to have guests sooner or later, and we would love to have topic suggestions or questions. Anything you've got, throw it our way, and we hope to see you again next week.
Awesome.
Bye,
Bye,
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.